Um, so it's funny.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
hey, Michelle, introduce yourself. We are so excited to have you on Agents Empowered. Anna and I, thank you so, so much for being here. We are live streaming on Facebook. We are recording. This will be put on YouTube and our website so that you can always go back and reference this. So who are you?
My name is Michelle Saward, and we are business partners here at eXp Realty. And it's been a joy to get to know you guys over the years. I tell you that much for sure, and watching what you're up to and what you're creating here with Empower and all the things. So, keep going, Allison, keep going, Anna. Super proud of what you guys are putting together here and what you're doing. I am 24 years in the business, just outside of Metro Detroit. And so I started practicing real estate in '01. I can't remember if I actually got licensed in 2000 or not. It's very hazy to me. And dove right in after 9/11 when I got laid off. So like March, I think it was of March of '01 was when I really okay, I had my license. I'm laid off now and I'm selling real estate with unemployment checks and a mortgage. So I then over the years have taken my little budding real estate career to consistently selling right around 200 homes a year for probably 8 years consecutive. And then I rolled it back and started to build a team because I did that essentially with only 4 people selling that number of homes. I was doing, it's funny, Tina Call, myself, and another buddy of mine all tapped out at 130 personal transactions a year. That seems to have been the magic number then. And I'd list about 110, work with 20 buyers, and then give the overflow to my buyer's agent, who at the time was doing like 50 some deals. And then we had another agent, maybe you've met her, Lisa LaRoe. I would give her my referral business that my team of 4 couldn't handle. And so I had 2 transaction coordinators, 1 salesperson, and we were just go, go, go all the time. And so I am excited to be here today because I mentioned casually in conversation with Allison a moment ago that I started in real estate in 2001, and in Metro Detroit in 2006 is when the down economy started. So I had all right, I got my 5 years under my belt. Things are starting to grow. It's going good, and slam. Surprise, it will not necessarily just keep growing organically with the economy. And talking to Anna, Anna number 2 on Zoom. I'm just kidding. Or Anna number 1, actually. You're number 2, Allison. Was that, we're in these big changes right now, and these big, crazy times where for me, my MLS is gone this morning, or not my MLS, my commission advertisement is gone this morning. And if you're just a couple years in the business and you've had great success because of the state of the economy and the real estate market, which I had also, I had a couple years of that. There were some big changes that occurred thereafter, and just wanted to share some insights with you at Anna Powell's request about how you can thrive in the changes that are forthcoming, and what to do about it, and how you can get your head set right about that.
We love that. And it's interesting. And I'm glad you're here to say that it happened to you a month early, right? There's a lot of doomsday preppers around it, and it's so scary and all of these things, but it's coming and it's going to happen. And you've got to get your mindset right. So we are so happy to have you, and we are excited for you to kind of pour in, and people add into the chat box, shout out, raise your hand, all the good stuff. Let's start the conversation.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Keep that chat box open for sure. I just, so I mentioned, that our commissions went away last night. They were supposed to go away at midnight, and the MLS is proactive in my area. They're very, and they removed them like around 3 o'clock yesterday instead. So we really had until midnight, but it was literally like, boom, today's the day, and so it just turned into like this big scramble of getting things done. And so how do we thrive in that? Like, I will say, quite frankly, I'm not overly concerned and overly worried about these changes. So if anyone here on the call is overly concerned or worried, please have some peace about it. You're in great hands here with Allison and Anna. They're going to make sure that you are in like a good spot, you know, if you've got questions or concerns about how to navigate what's coming for most y'all in what I think a month, right? A month? Yeah, a month for you guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
August 17th.
One of our MLSs is we're losing it August 1st. And then I think the other two MLSs, I think we have about a month.
Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, things are not, they're not going to go completely easy. I will say this. There will be bumps in the road, and surprise, there's going to be agents who, you know, procured a sale and are not going to get paid. If people miss the mark on how to handle it properly. And I'm sure that that's coming. We're going to hear many conversations around how, you know, I'm picking on Walter here, decided that, you know, he said in a text message that he was going to offer compensation of X and then come to the closing table and it changes. It's just not, Walter wouldn't do that, but it could happen to Walter. So you're going to see plenty of that going on. And I want to prepare you too for even going on listing appointments and conversations, that your real estate temper tantrum will show up. I had a real estate temper tantrum and I still have them sometimes. My real estate temper tantrum showed up for me during the down economy. And this is what it looks like. I want what I want when I want it. Nothing is happening fast enough. I'm getting too many objections. I'm not making the money that I want. And I want these deals and I want them right now. And I throw myself on the floor like a little kid and kick and scream and think about, what about me? What about me? What about me? What about me? I want mine. Yeah. Okay. We got hands up. Oh, somebody wants a clip. Okay. All right. You want a video clip of that? Let's go. I want what I want. So your real estate temper tantrum will occur. If you haven't had one and I'm the only person, then, you know, okay, I'm a little weird, but I imagine we've all had that conversation with ourselves at some point in time. Can anyone please, like anyone with me here? Virtual?
Sure. Yes,
Yeah. Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yep.
Thank you. So my little insight and tidbit for that is when your real estate temper tantrum shows up, that it's not happening for you the way that you want, as fast as you want, and how you want, that you get out of your own freaking way and go be of service to others. The minute you stop thinking about yourself and what it is that you want out of this situation and go be of service to others, I literally would do like what Tony Robbins says and change my physical state. I would shake my head like stop, 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 or slap myself in the face just a little bit to wake me up and say, get over yourself, Michelle, go be of service. And then immediately grab the phone and start doing some lead follow-up or calling some past clients or sphere of influence. And I did this during the down economy. And let me explain. In Detroit, for those of you just popping on, it was from December. Well, no, I'm sorry. It was from 06, not December. Oh my God. It was from 06 to 11. So that's 5 years in Detroit, because we're the Motor City and this is where it all started, the Rust Belt. It was a long haul. And we were at the point of selling properties. Like I remember in the winter, no heated seats, busted pipes. You know, remember kitchens were tore out and they were sold on Craigslist. Yeah, Craigslist. I'm dating myself. This is where they were. And I mean, I was wearing long johns under my dress clothes in the winter, going to show these properties that were like for $30,000 and everything was a short sale. My longest short sale took 365 days to close and I probably made $600 when it was done. Like, I think I spent more money in gas than I did on the commissions I was earning. And so when I say it got freaking hard, it got so hard, I took a job bartending. And my cousin came into the bar and he said, I thought you sold real estate. And I said, you're right, I quit because I didn't want to be known as the bartender. I wanted to be known as the real estate agent. And so it was to the point, it was so bad. I had multiple rental properties. I had to borrow money from my father-in-law. So when I say that it was bad and it was hard, it was bad and it was hard. And I've been there and I've done that. And the only thing that could get me through is being of service to others and getting out of my own head. So if you're going to have some moments where things get hard for you, get out of your own damn head and get into service of others. Spend your energy and your time. Please hear me and feel me. Come on now. Please hear me and feel me. doing things that feel good to you. Because if you're stuck in that negative freaking, my commissions are gone and I have to negotiate everything. And this agent said one thing in a text and then they're not cooperating. And now my closing settlement statement is wrong and da da da. Like, and how am I going to get these signatures on the commission agreements? About all this stuff. If you let that take you down, you will lose and you will be out of the business faster than you got into it. So I'm here to like preach, and I'm taking y'all to church right now, I'm sure. And say that this is one of the most important things that you can do is to have your mindset right. And it's of service, and it's you know, spending time on conscious creation of where you want to go and what you want this to look like, essentially.
Michelle, I'll tap in real quick. We're talking about this in our team meeting this morning. If you haven't read Leaders Eat Last, go read it. But there's 2 or 3 chapters where he literally talks about chemicals in our brain, right? We talk about all the love chemicals, right? And how we're so, and Chanel Hard to Pre does a great presentation on this too. We talk so much about those dopamine hits. And what you were just saying makes me think about that conversation. Oh, my commission, oh, a win, oh, this. Those are all those short little dopamine hits that we get very addicted to in our careers. And really what we should be focusing on is exactly what you said. The serotonin, the oxytocin, they stay in our systems longer. They counter that addictive nature. They make us, they literally block cortisol. And so it's so important, I think, to realize that like when we're going through these things, we're so used to chasing, I got that under contract, I got that big commission, I recruited that agent, I this, and they're all little dopamine hits, right? And we should be, in times of trouble, really trying to focus in on, you know, being part of a group, the love chemicals, the serotonin, the oxytocin that last longer. So if you are struggling and you need something that's more than just like, oh, mindset, go read this. It's like chemically like what's happening in your brain. And we're studying it today in our team meeting because I feel like we need it because there's a lot of crazy out there right now.
I have not read this book, but I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, oh yes, like
that.
This is exactly it. Because what happens as a result, you know, what this book, Leaders Eat Last, that you were saying about when you're creating more serotonin, what happens as an end result is that when you get out of your own head and you be of service to others and you do things that create serotonin and make yourself feel good and get out of that negative state, what's going to happen for you in your business is that you are going to create, which is exactly what happened to me during the down economy. You're going to create clients for life. Like I'm telling you, those clients are like going to give me a pound. It's so good to see you again. Let's go to work. Like they're going to just know I can call, you know, Annette, and Annette's got my back, and Annette is going to do what I need to do to get it done. Like they're going to just organically call you. There's not even going to be a question in their mind of that they should be calling somebody else. So that's exactly what happened. During the down economy, 6 through 11, I told you I had to borrow money. I had to like dig so freaking deep. It was ridiculously hard. You go from like making a decent income to not at all and needing to supplement. You know, you just had to get really like, you have to do extra. It's like, it's just an extra market. Expect to make extra calls, go above and beyond for service. Because then what people remember is that serotonin and how you made them feel at the end of the day, that you went hard for them when nobody else would. You were the professional when so many other people were just acting all crazy. Like Anna said, she's going to have to mitigate some stuff here coming up when people are acting crazy, and they're just going to say, we are your client for life. Michelle went hard for us when everybody else was bouncing and nobody wanted to work that hard. Nobody wanted to figure this thing out. And nobody told me the truth. And so if you can become the person that's educated and the dealer of hope and opportunity and showing the way to people, clients, other agents, then that's going to be magnetizing, and that is going to create a bright future for yourself. This is where you get your market share now. Yeah.
Some of the strongest realtors and businesses in this industry have grown out of the toughest markets. And if you look around and you talk to some of these big players in our industry, they went through the hard times. They went through the hard markets because it actually created good habits. It created understanding what you actually had to do to get these things to the finish line. And what we've all experienced sitting on this call, if we've been in the market the last 1 to 5 years,
Yeah.
it's a pretty easy market, right? Is your success, you said this in the beginning, is your success a result of a really good market? And I think that's a question that we should all ask ourselves right now. Were our numbers in any way inflated by the market? Or was it because we actually dug in, we did the hard things, we were consistent, and we did what needed to do to grow these businesses? And what's happening is these markets accordion, right? Because it's happening faster. That accordion is out and in, out and in. And we're feeling this weird uncomfortableness, right? And it's because we're not actually consistent in what we're doing. We get that fish and we're like, oh, look how good we are. We caught a fish. It's probably a little bit of that market accordioning, right? It's not because we're consistently doing the things that we need to do. And so I think it's interesting to hear people that say, I've been through this market and this is what I had to do. And you didn't give up. You didn't throw in the towel. And a lot of people will throw in the towel. And it's going to be the people that dig in, and they dig in deep. And a lot of it is that mindset, understanding, like you said, if it's not mindset and you need to just actually change your physicality, like what are you doing that you need to get up, shake it off, go for a walk, but come back and do the things.
Yeah. What you're talking about is grit. And this is where this market now is where the decision is made. I want to pull it up so bad. It's by Goethe. When one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. That's what you're speaking about right now. It is Goethe. If you can pull it up and maybe share it in the chat.
I'll find it. I'll share it in the chat.
Commits. Okay, thanks, Anna. So yeah, so when one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. It's like that's what we're talking about here. It's you make the decision now. I'm going to get out of my own way. I'm going to be of service to others. And just the faster you can have awareness of the fact that this is the extra market, this is going to be the go hard market, the faster you can have awareness of that. And like what Allison said, is that real self-reflection. Was my success part of the market, right? Was it or was it not? Get real with yourself. It's okay. Look, I've had some great years and they were definitely part of the market. Doesn't mean that I'm less than of an agent. It means that, great, we got a tailwind. Just like every transaction that you do, I tell my team this all the time. They're like, man, got a cash buyer out of the blue and we're freaking closing on Tuesday. Like, I can't believe it was this easy. Super easy. I showed him one house, cash buyer, we're done. And he's like, I don't even know where they came from. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. Think of all those deals that you did that went so hard. They were supposed to close in 30 days and they closed in like 65. And it was arduous. And there was like so many repairs and it was a nightmare, right? But you kept it together. So this is that same situation where you make the decision now. You've been having it easy for a while, and this is going to be the go hard moment. So just brace yourself for that. And then once you make that decision, I promise you, I pinky swear to you right now, I pinky swear, you will have such raving fans in the coming months. You will be back to easy again.
There's actually the good books. Raving Fans is a really good book to read. And I also believe there's one called Clients for Life. I have those on my book recommendation list somewhere, but Raving Fans is a really great book to read.
Okay.
One thing that we that I read early in my career, because I was a Brian Buffini girl, so that's how I built my business, was on all of his systems. And he talks in one of his books about, when the storm comes, people look to a lighthouse, right? So when the water gets rocky and it's not easy to navigate, they're going to look to that steady, just solid lighthouse up on the hill. And so our vision statement for our team is to be a beacon in the community by putting people first, because that lighthouse reference just always sat well with me. And one of the things I will say is, yes, and I think you have to remember this, that when things get rockier than maybe they are even now, right? What we're seeing is that it's just like you said, Michelle, the proven steadiness of your business it actually can make it quite easy for the agent or for the client attraction, right? So we have clients that are coming to us now. The transaction's hard. Navigating what they want is hard, but capturing the client right now for our team has been very easy because we're the proven model, because we've spent the years being that steady, consistent, proven lighthouse, in my opinion. So that's another one of those just, I think, really nice alliterations of like what we're looking for, is to just remember that as the storm gets rocky, your value proposition goes higher and higher. You're not as valuable when the seas are calm, when it's easy to navigate. And I think that is the market that we've been in for the last couple of years. So just making sure that you're recognizing that unique value proposition of I am a lighthouse in the storm. It's going to allow people to come to you faster. Transactions are getting yuckier, they're getting messier, they're getting harder. But that first call in to say, hey, we want you guys to help us, we're a clear choice now. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, this is an opportunity. I mean, this is an opportunity to build your business into shine. 100%. I mean, I'd love to hear from some of the people on this call if they're feeling uneasy about it, or they've got like, or they just like bracing them for themselves, like, okay, I'm jumping in. I'm on the edge of the diving board. I swear I'm going to jump in. Or like, do you need a push? Like, to really fully embrace it. But it's, I would love to hear from anybody else on this call that's got something else to add.
Yeah, let's open it up. I mean, what are everybody's biggest fears and challenges right now in this market? And what are the fears maybe looking down the next 30 days of when this commission structure changes in MLS? Anybody want to pipe in?
Anybody got anything at the moment? No, everybody's totally confident.
Well, I can say, I feel like it's going to open up. You're going to have to have that conversation about commission early on. And it's actually going to be helpful as opposed to avoiding that conversation. You're just going to jump in there and say, well, this is the way this whole new thing's laid out. And this is what we got to do and move forward. And I feel that's the way it's going to be.
I think I totally agree with you. And I think too, like having those conversations up front, you're in a position where you can paint yourself as the authority because you're not afraid to have that conversation.
Right.
Like, do you have any idea how many real estate agents are going to shy away from that dialogue? And then they're going to have hate. Oh man. Could you imagine? You get a phone call, you meet somebody at a property, you don't tell them how the new commission structure, a buyer, how it's going to work. You don't even have that conversation at all. And then you write the offer and the buyer doesn't totally read the contract because typically they don't. And then they go to closing and they realize they have to bring an extra $9,000 to $15,000 to the closing table, and you didn't have that conversation with them. Do you know how many buyers are going to be so pissed off at that unprofessional real estate agent, and how much that's going to circulate around that conversation wasn't had up front? When you want to think about this is a time to shine, think about that. Think about all those people that are going to be dropping out of the business because they got their ass handed to them. I can say that. We're live.
Yeah. It's agents in power. You can say ass.
The agents that got their asses handed to them, as a result of being chewed out by a client and, just for their lack of unprofessionalism. I mean, that stuff is going to go on social media. Don't think that it's not. Somebody's going to be posting about how terrible that experience was.
We're already experiencing this because our agency documents changed a long time ago, and for us in South Carolina. And what it always said was that this is what I am agreeing to as a buyer to pay my buyer's agent. But buyer's agents were always saying, you don't owe me anything. You don't owe me anything. The seller pays me. But you had to pre-fill this document out. So if it said 3% and we go to closing and the seller's giving us 2.5%, legally the buyer owes you the 3%. But no one was operating that way because it was never in the media. It was never a thing. And so we just had a compensation that was offered at 2.5%, and the buyer's agent closed. And at the closing table, she said, well, where's the other 0.5% coming from? I'm doing 3%. And so she made the buyer pay the 0.5%. And the buyer came back and said, we're very unhappy with the listing agent that we had to pay this 0.5%. Well, you didn't have to pay the 0.5%. That was something negotiated with the buyer, right?
Yeah.
But we're already starting to see it right now because it's an uncomfortable conversation. And I think that anything that you're doing in life and in business, if it's uncomfortable, it's something you should probably really look into and get really good at, because these are uncomfortable conversations, but it's going to set you apart because most agents are just not willing to have these conversations. They're
God,
not willing to have them.
you're bringing up so much excavated like stuff I tucked away in my diary right now with this conversation, Allison. Like I just remember, you know, and actually I did it yesterday. I did it last night. I remember going on so many appointments and they're like, you know, this is during the down economy. Hey, you know, I lost my job 6 months ago and I am now, you know, 3 months behind on payments. I got 3 months left and they're going to take my property back. And I'm like, great. Average days on market right now is 180 days to get a property sold if you're lucky right now. So we're kind of in a negative situation. And if this is how much you owe on the property, then the reality is we're probably looking at a short sale with you. You know, like these are tough conversations. Like these are like, and please, that's the other thing. Don't get hooked in emotionally to the drama. Like you can hear the story, you can offer consult, you can be a partner to your cooperative agent, but don't get hooked into the drama, you know, of, oh, guess what? Your buyer didn't pay that other 0.5%. Well, okay. You know, like don't let that take you down, you know, just, yeah.
I think it's just be confident. So Stephanie just said she's personally scared to be undereducated. She is trying to stay as plugged in to everything as possible and the changes from the right sources. And she feels educated and has the knowledge that she's, you know, knowledge is going to be power, but she wants to be able to have the correct conversations with buyers and sellers. Did I say that right, Stephanie?
Yeah. Yep. I think.
Anybody else have any fears or anything that we can maybe address or kind of just talk about?
Yeah, I think what's something, or I see someone else chiming in there. Sorry.
You're okay, good.
Okay. No, I think yeah, I think that, you know, Stephanie's got a good point. It's really staying connected and plugged into the conversation. Just about because we're like our MLS went away with commissions let yesterday. Like we're done. And so it's like we have these 30 days to kind of figure it out before it's like, you know, the national sweeping thing that this is just what we're doing. And so it's like, yeah, we're all learning on the fly. Keep that in mind, Stephanie. You're not alone. Everyone is learning this on the fly. Like we're literally like laying track as the train is rolling. So you're not alone with it. And I think being open with other real estate agents on the transactional side of it too is going to be tremendously helpful. So many agents right now are completely unaware.
Michelle, I was going to ask you, like, how are you having the conversation? This is Ashley. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah,
Michigan now. Hi.
Oh,
I'm
you're
in
here.
Michigan at Target with my kid. Yes.
Oh, that's right. All right.
Yeah. So I wanted to know, like, how are you going to have the conversation with clients? Let's say they're buying an $800,000 house. You know, you go in and say, okay, my commission's 2.5%, right? $17,000. I'm going to go seek it from the seller if they don't have it, or if they're not providing it and there's multiple offers. Like, I mean, what if they're just like, we're not paying you? I mean, are you just, and they were a past client of yours and they're like, well, we just don't want to pay that. So how are you going to navigate that conversation? Because you have been in the business forever and you've seen a lot of things.
Yeah. As a past client, that one's really tough. I will say one of the things that I'm doing right now though, on the listing side, I'm switching gears a little bit here, is that I'm taking a notice of buyer's agency agreement. We have those here in Michigan on my listing appointment and having the seller sign a blank saying we're going to offer out to Ashley or whoever else at, you know, Remax, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, whatever, if they bring a buyer, that 3% commission or whatever, 2.5 is standard in your market, whatever, 3 is more standard in ours. But they're just going to be signing a blanket that we're offering out this compensation. And that needs to be acknowledged on the buy side. So that's my listing aim to try to skirt around that. If the listing agent is saying that, hey, we're not going to pay that, and these are your repeat clients because somebody else took that listing and it wasn't Ashley that took that listing. You know, if they're saying that, I mean, if they're repeat past clients, you might just have to say at some point, you know what, I totally understand. I mean, you might have to negotiate with them something that is workable for you. So you might find that, you know what, hey, you know, I'm taking 2% on this one. Like, you know what I mean? They're good past clients. They've referred a lot of people to me. You may have to decide, and you may have to also get a concession out of the seller for it. But
So-
it's really going to be, I think, a crapshoot of a game.
Well, I think that markets are going to react. So what's going to happen, in my opinion, is let's say, Michelle, you're the listing agent and you're receiving 3%. And you're not compensating a buyer's agent.
Mhm.
The property has been on the market 100 days now. And I bring you an offer.
Yeah.
That's a good offer.
Yeah.
And I bring you an offer with a 3% compensation. And you go to your seller and you say, hey, Mr. Seller, we've been on the market 100 days and this is an offer and it's 92% of list price. And they said, that's great. That's great. Okay, great. We're going to accept this 92% of list price. Well, Mr. Seller, the buyer's agent is asking to be compensated. Well, let their buyer pay the buyer's agent. Well, Mr. Seller, they've kind of put this in their price. They've already negotiated that and they're not willing to do that. We've already had that discussion. So, Michelle, are you willing to stand in between the seller of getting this deal because you're not willing to negotiate your commission, or because you can't negotiate a buyer's commission with the price of the contract?
Right. Is that really worth it?
Then the house sits on the market another
So what about ones that are in multiple offers or something that is more exciting? It's not been on the market a while, and that I feel like is going to be, I guess, a negotiating tactic potentially, right?
It is. It will be a negotiating tactic. And I just put in the chat, if they don't want to pay you, these buyers, they're not going to want to pay anyone.
They're
So
going
you
to have to
might
go directly to the listing agent is what they would have to eventually just go directly to the listing agent to make the deal work if they want that house. And then they're not going to be negotiated for.
Nope.
And then instead of paying 92%, they're probably going to end up paying 98%. So
Yep.
this is where your value proposition comes in. This is where understanding how to negotiate for yourself comes in. And so I think you start by making that offer. I believe days on market will go up and increase for houses that are unwilling to compensate buyers agents. And I believe that agents that don't have very strong relationships with agents in their market aren't going to succeed at a high level as listing agents either, because the game is not going to be buyers just calling listing agents and not being represented. It's going to start leveling out, and it's going to be a communication game, in my opinion.
100%.
And who can communicate the best. Emotional intelligence and communication are what's going to win in this environment. Anna, go
I
ahead.
also think one thing to keep in mind, we had unrepresented buyers that were adamant. They wanted to be unrepresented. They wanted to keep the commission for themselves. And, you know, one of the things that they ran into is, guess what they couldn't do? They had a loan. Guess what they couldn't use? What could they not use? Guys, what were they limited to? The closing costs that they could take, right? So then we're talking about, and I knew that when they wrote the offer, I was like, they can't take $20,000 and use it unless they're going to go do buy downs or do extra stuff that they didn't want to do. And the seller, you know, like, we represent them. So we said, yep, okay, absolutely. We wrote it in as buyer, you know, seller paid closing costs, but they can't use it. So there's like $5,000, $6,000 that are just going to the wayside because then the seller didn't agree to sign the 4T to adjust the price down to make it make any sense. So just like there's also going to be limitations, I think, on these unrepresented buyers too, and being able to have that conversation and understand, what does your loan look like? What are you going to actually be able to use? That was a big eye opener for us, is that people think, oh, this cash will be up for grabs for these buyers to potentially use as unrepresented buyers, but sometimes they can't apply it.
There's the max concessions that they can use. I see
Hello,
Adam.
Adam. No, what questions do you have, Adam? No, I see your hand is raised. Adam, no.
Well, not exactly a question. I just kind of wanted to kind of throw something in there from stuff that I've already seen. I already had an open door situation where they've already implemented this a while ago. And you know, they wouldn't take a commission of compensation form. So I did have to have that conversation with my client, and he was more than willing. Like, it was one of those things like you guys had mentioned, like where you feel like, oh wow, are they really going to push back on this? But explaining it to them and saying, hey, this is something we're transitioning to. This is how it's going to become normal. They've adopted this already. You know, let's kind of throw this in there as a credit, see if we can get this, accepted. They did. They gave him the buyer concession in order to cover it, which was great. But he had no pushback, on it either. And I think people are going to be very surprised to see that maybe a lot of clients aren't. I think this is going to be like onesies and twosies of people who are really going to push back on this. And it's like all the hype up that they saw in the media. They're like, oh, I saw this, I saw that. Clients that I'm having conversations with that are ready to list, they're like, hey, so what about this whole thing with the commission? I'm like, nothing's really changed. Honestly, all it has is just become more public. This has always been a negotiation. I think it's a great idea for you guys to offer a commission because it's going to, help you stand out. I really don't think there's going to be much change in it. And like, even when we were in a COVID economy, when, things were going for multiple offers, and stuff like that, I tried with some of my clients that were having a hard time negotiating my commission down a little bit if I needed to, in order to throw a little extra their way. So now kind of think of it the opposite, where now you're trying to negotiate your commission back a little bit if you need to, but I really don't think there's going to be much change to it. We're just going to have to kind of change our minds of problem solving, is really how I kind of see it. But I think you guys will be surprised. I don't think it's going to be as hard or as bad as you think. I mean, we'll see, but I haven't really seen anything crazy on my end yet from it.
I love that perspective. Thank you.
I think that's really good.
I was gonna, oh, sorry. I was just
Lisa.
gonna say one little phrase you can use that Tina's been using when we're talking about it is compensation strategy. So let's talk now about our compensation strategy, which makes it feel like it's part of the strategy of selling the home.
Yeah.
I love that. Lisa asked,
what do you guys
think about telling the sellers up front that the house will sit longer if they're not willing to negotiate? I want to say I speak very confidently, so I should have said that is my opinion. I don't know if that will actually happen. It is my opinion of what will happen with compensations removed from the public view, right? And so that is something that I believe will happen. So I want to make sure that I'm just kind of clear about that. But I do think it's worth having that conversation of what our opinions are and what we believe might happen. Annette, were you raising your hand? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is there like any data to show where, because we have in our market have been seeing lower compensation on buyer side. They've been going from 2.5 down below. I've seen 2, 1, 1.5 to 0. I was just wondering, does anybody have any data that when we do talk to sellers that we can say, okay, those who are offering a lower compensation, their days on market are higher than the ones who are in the normal share?
All right. I'm gonna say two things because I'm going crazy here because Annette, you just brought it up again. So two things. One, Ashley, going back to that, those people that might not want to pay you, this is where you're going to have to set your standards and decide who you want to work with or who you don't want to work with. Right. So I'm going to go with that. And then Annette, to answer your question about how to handle that, one of the things that I would do when we could display commissions in the MLS, I did this during the short sale time, like when everything was bank owned for, 5 years in the Detroit market. I would print off the full agent copy of the MLS, and you don't even need to do this. You can just take your comps and you can write it out on a piece of paper on your listing appointment. And you can say, Mr. Seller, if there are only 5 homes available that meet your criteria as a buyer, this one's offering out 3%, 2%, 1% commission, and you map them all out, and only one of them is offering 1% commission. If you were an aggressive, hungry real estate agent, which property are you going to show first? Which property are you going to show last? Guess what? That house that they're showing last, that's your home. Is that what you want? And to Allison's point about seeing a division in the marketplace, homes that are on the market for a long time versus ones that are selling relatively quickly, properties always sell for more money and faster when they have an abundance of buyers looking at the property, period. Which strategy is going to get you the greatest abundance of buyers? Having every single agent in the multiple listing service come knocking on your door and wanting to showcase your property to a large variety of buyers, or having a very narrow pool of opportunity of people who would be interested in not cooperating with you?
Don't you have to
That's
be
really
scared
powerful.
of that by steering?
No,
What's that? Say it again, Mo?
he said, are you scared of steering?
Okay, I guess I don't understand how you mean that.
You're taking a client out to show them properties, and the last one you're gonna show is the least amount of commission. I mean, the
Oh,
way
I
that.
didn't say that. I asked the seller if you were a hungry real estate agent,
Okay,
would you
okay,
want to show
got it.
first?
Got it.
And Annette, I think that's really interesting because we've got some listings in our market that are hitting the 1.5%, 2%, and the days on market are much higher. I was on a listing presentation yesterday and they had a lower commission rate than the standard, and even the lower than the average. And the question was, why are we on the market still? And I think that's really impactful to ask that question, because we need to probably start mapping out what is the delta between the days on market of properties that have a higher compensation. And as we get creative as agents come August 17th, and for Michelle already, because they're ahead of the game, these things will start to show the differentiation. It will happen. And that's what I was saying, that I believe these homes will probably sit on the market longer for people that are not willing to compensate buyers agents. So I think that'd be an interesting thing for all of us on this thread. We can send an email out if anybody wants to pipe in on what they're seeing in their market, so we can kind of get a nice spreadsheet of what are we seeing across different markets and days on markets in correlation to buyers compensation.
I think that's really smart. And you can also take that same, if you're in a different MLS than, what you're in, Allison, or whatever on this call, you can also take that same mindset of like properties that are overpriced and look at their days on market if they're overpriced. And why are they taking longer to sell? It's because they have a narrower amount of people that'd be willing to, even come look. So
Every single time.
it's that same concept.
Okay. All right. Muted that. Sorry. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. Well, does anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I'll just chime in. Our days on market here, and this is Victoria Goins, and the Charleston MLS is only 11. And I've already run into this with Lennar, new construction builder here, where they weren't willing to compensate. And I knew it going in, and kind of to Allison's point, I already have this conversation because our buyer agency agreements changed a long time ago. So I always say up front, this is what I charge. I do my best to source it out of the transaction, but if not, then, this is still my fee and you're responsible for that. But the reality is you can't let that, and I think this is kind of what Anna's saying too with her last comment, you can't let that be the dictating factor and whether or not you work with a buyer. And that's something you said, Michelle, like we need to decide up front if we're willing to work with a buyer. These buyers are perfectly lovely and pleasant. I want to work with them. And because I don't know up front whether or not each individual home that they're going to look at is going to compensate me, I can't let that, their inability to compensate me, be the deciding factor, at least for me, and not in a market where there's only 11 days on the market, because they're just going to go to somebody else. So what's happening with them is that I'm having to negotiate my commission. And as someone who is a very buyer heavy person, number one, I need to really pivot my strategy so that I'm more listing heavy. That's the first thing. But number two, I think it's naive to think that we're not going to have to negotiate our own commission on every single one of these, especially in a market like Charleston, where the days on market is still only 11.
Agreed.
So on this one, if they decide to move forward with Lennar, they don't have the 3% to pay me, period, end of story. And so I'm going to have to settle. And I think we're going to constantly, that's really the question you're going to have to ask yourself. And you can't say to a buyer that, or at least I can't, I don't ethically feel like I can say to a buyer, no, I will not show you this house because the seller's unwilling to compensate me. So I don't know. I think it's going to be more challenging. And like I said, I've already run into it, and I've also already run into a listing where they were offering less too.
Well, Victoria, I think your perspective is really great. And I try to come from abundance in all situations. And in that situation, and this again might not be what people want to hear, I would represent that buyer. I
me
have
too.
already shown you houses, and the way I look at this is that in 3 years, when you sell, I've gained a client for life. And I think that's the most beautiful bow to put on this entire thing, is that Michelle started this with, we were in a hard market
Ugh.
and I spent more money on gas than I got in a commission. And she came from abundance, and she came from giving, and she came from helping these people. And those people, when you say, I understand and I can in good faith because you don't have the 3%, not help you through this transaction, I'm not going to release you from my buyer's agency, I'm going to make this really hard for you, they're going to refer you. They're going to give you their friends, their family, their brother, their sister. And when they sell, they're going to give you their name. One act of kindness, one act of putting the client above yourself, I think will go a long way. Are we saying that we all need to go work for free?
No.
Or not? But are we saying kind of what Adam was saying, that this is going to be fewer and farther between than we probably believe? Yeah, probably. So, maybe they can afford to give you $1,000, right? Maybe that's what they can afford. And at the end of the day, that's all they can get out of this. And I really believe that you'll have clients for life with that. And your business is going to flourish on the other side of this, because this too may change. It's always constantly evolving and changing. And if it was so quick for an NAR settlement to come through and this happens and now we're removing them, what is this going to be in 5 years? We're always going to be constantly evolving. And if you're in it for the long run and you're in it for your clients, I really believe that there's success on the other side. So I really appreciate that perspective, Victoria.
Hey,
Thanks.
Victoria,
The
one
other thing that
sorry. I was going to say,
No.
one thing you could think about, I heard at an agent in the Buffini network that did this, they would always add on their addition, because in your buyer agency agreement, there's additional provisions. You can write whatever you want in there. That's where we collect our, transaction fee. And it might sound kind of silly, but one of the things that this guy would do is he'd always put, like, I want introductions to 2 or 3 of your close friends and family for the referral. So just remember that our compensation from these buyers doesn't necessarily always have to be monetarily in a commission check. And I think that if you're trying to, and I love what you said, Michelle, is like, find the standard, like, what's your standard that you're going to work for? But I've always done this with listings, and I do it with listings all the time. I'm like, hey, this listing furthers my business. I'm willing to take a little bit less on the commission. I'm willing to work a little bit harder, put more hours in for less pay on this because it moves my business forward. So thinking about buyers in that capacity as well, maybe you set your standards on, how realistic are their expectations? How well connected are they in the community? Like, what are some other things that they can help grow my business that is not a $10,000 paycheck when it's all said and done? So maybe really being strategic and coming up with that list of, these are the check boxes that I need my buyer to fulfill if that commission is going to be under market value. And then that's where you make your decision. And you don't have to sit there and just make it on yucky commission, because that's gross. And I don't want to run my business that way.
This is such a freaking fun conversation, because I'm listening, I'm thinking about Ashley too in this conversation. Like, Victoria, you could put something on there like, okay, fine. You know what? How Anna said, I was like, go big. I was like, I want referrals. This is what my expectation is. I want an invitation to that mixer. I want to, right? Like, I want to be put in rooms where I'm going to be able to network, and you're going to be referring me and endorsing me.
Yeah.
I want to be invited to your housewarming party where I can meet all of your guests.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of putting that on the agreement. So that's a wonderful idea. The other thing that I was going to say too, that I think that we can start adding to our conversations, is really the intention behind this. And if I understand everything correctly, the intention was always to try to help buyers. So the reason that this sort of change kind of came down the pipe was to try to bring home prices down theoretically. And so I think that's a conversation you can have with your seller when they don't want to compensate a buyer's agent. And then you can say, well, the intention in not compensating them then is that you're going to reduce the house price, right? So I think that's kind of the conversation that you could, haven't dialed that in yet, like how I'm going to have that conversation. But I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, the goal behind this was always that. So if you're not willing to compensate, then are you willing to reduce the price? Because that's sort of the intention there. Now, again, I don't know how I'm going to exactly have that conversation, but I think it's worth, we can bring that up.
Yeah. And Anna just said that Dan Beer has some great snippets talking about that. So maybe check him out as well. He's got some good stuff that he's posted on Instagram and things like that.
That's good. I think the one thing we want to avoid when I was saying, like, go be of service to others and get out of your own head is also keeping in mind too, what Victoria's talking about right here is, don't put yourself in the position of being a martyr. when I'm saying define who it is that you're willing to work with, where do you draw your lines? Because a martyr is you're being of service to other people, but you're causing losses to yourself. And so if it starts to feel yucky, like I am, you know what? I should never freaking work with these people and I am causing losses to myself, then this is not what you should be aligning with. There should be a win-win in this.
This has been great. I feel like we definitely probably need to have a secondary conversation around this as we move forward to the August 17th date. And I want to invite everyone to join us next week. We are doing 11 to 3 o'clock-ish Eastern Standard Time. We've got tons of speakers coming on. They're going to be 20 to 40-minute segments. And so it's going to be a little different for Empower next week. We will not be meeting at 8:30. We will be jumping on at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to be a digital conference. Anna has put the link for your ticket in the Eventbrite link in the chat. We really encourage you to share this as well. If you're with EXP, if you're with Empower, if you're with ERA or Keller Williams or whatever it is, this is about just sharing and collaborating, because the more minds we have on these, the more that we collaborate with one another, the better off we are. It really just boils down to helping one another and educating ourselves on what's coming. And the more we know, the better off we are. So we hope to see you all there. Please share that link, put it on social media, shout it from the rooftops, and we hope to see all of your faces next Wednesday.
This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks so much.
Thank you
Michelle,
so
for
much.
a wonderful facilitator conversation today.
I didn't know it was going to roll like this, but I'm glad it
It
did.
usually, I will tell you this, it's a testament to the conversation, because usually it's 8:30 in the morning and everyone's like, nah. I'm like, no, it's been amazing to hear so many people chime with so many ideas. So everyone go crush it. Have a great day. Ashley, enjoy Target.
Bye, guys. Thank you. And
Bye,
call
love
us if
you
you ever need
all.
us.